ulama that we have. Now, before we start, uh, a maid, she said she met
It's
about
okay, yeah, it's okay.
alayhi salam in Medina, and she picked a flower from the streets and she gave it to Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. And Imam, he freed her in the way of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. And then someone said she just picked a flower from the streets and she gave it to you and you freed her. Why such a lofty generosity was shown? And in reply, Imam says that Quran says that in إِذَا حُيِّيتُم بِتَحِيَّةٍ فَحَيُّوا بِأَحْسَنِهَا. That is, someone greets you with a greeting, you also greet them back in a better way. So Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam is that existence of generosity, who gives and who gives a lot. There is a website which belongs to the Haram of Hazrat Ma'asuma Salamullahi alayha in Qom, and it is in Farsi. They've got a page, it's called Sitaragan Haram, the stars of the Haram. They are those people who have served and who have helped about the Haram of Hazrat Ma'asuma Salamullahi alayha. Now there this incident has been mentioned that among the ulama living at that time is Sayyid Ja'far Aghay Mujtahidi, a very noble person. And also among the reciters at that time, this is about 30, 40 years ago. Reciters at that time is Sayyid Burqi, one of the famous reciters who used to go home to home, house to house, recite for Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. Now this great alim, Sayyid Ja'far Aghay Mujtahidi, he hosts a majlis every week, every Thursday in his house, and every Thursday the Sayyid has to recite. Says one day, as usual, I recited, and then once the recitation was done, and I ended the majlis very quickly, very fast. And soon I came down the mimbar to leave. And then the host, Sayyid Ja'far Agha, an old man, he said, why such a rush? Why such a rush? Stay, have a cup of tea, and then go. He says, now this old man is saying, I also wait, and I had a drink of a cup of tea, and then I stood again to leave. He said, why such a rush? That what you are waiting for is coming. Sit. Then he said, I couldn't get what he's saying, that what I'm waiting for is coming to me. Then he says that after a while I stood to leave, and he said, don't. And it's here now. And then he gives him a bunch of keys and says that this is for you from Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. He sent this to you with a little complaint. And the complaint is that you've been serving us for all these years. How will we abandon you and we will let you alone? He burst into tears, into cry. And then all those well-wishers who were in that majlis, they saw him end the majlis so fast. And then remember. And then again, he wanted to leave. He sat down. He said again to leave. He sat down. Three times they saw all these events unfolding, and then he bursts into tears. They ask what happened. He says that I'm getting old and I can't walk so much, and I have got so many majalis to attend and to recite. And I said I'll buy a car for myself, and with that car I'll drive wherever I want to. And in those days, buying a car wasn't easy. You had to register, and after a long time, uh, when they drew lots and your name came out, you have to pay a deposit and then buy a car. And that money also he did not have, he had to borrow it from someone. There, Abu Abdullah and Hussein sent him that car free of charge with this complaint that someone who has been at our door has been crying for us, reciting for us, serving us. Do you think that we will abandon them? We will leave them? That is the generosity that we see in Abu Abdullah al Hussein and the entire household and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So these majalis that are held for Abu Abdullah, they are great. They are a special bonus given to the mu'mineen to be part of them, to sit and listen, to recite, and especially in this pandemic and this new medium and the way of azar that is being conducted and held, the mindset of every one of us should be that exactly how we used to participate and attend a majlis, that same mindset should be brought home with wudu, facing the qibla, dressed in black, and however you used to participate, exactly the same way, sit and observe and cry and recite and listen and mourn for Sayyid al-Shuhada Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. Or in other words, the quality of azar this year, it may increase, and it definitely will increase because there's no one to look at us. It is us, and we are observing it on our own. So that is another special bonus that is given to the mu'mineen. So this azar of Abu Abdullah, it never cools down. And then the hadith also says that in the fi qulub al-mu'mineen hararatun la tabrudu abada. There is a heat in the heart of mu'mineen that never cools down. And with all this propaganda against the Shias in particular, against the Azhar, um, we see that now how does it, and it's all these Al Saud who are playing the games and against the Azhar of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam in this day and age now. Otherwise, the Mukhalifin or the opposition of Azadari, they have already always existed. And when we look into the Masaib that are recited throughout the year, which took place just in a few hours on that day of Ashura, people they moan, people they cry, people they have tawassul with the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they come up and say that this is shirk, this is bid'at, this is not allowed, this is not part of deen, and they quote some riwayat, and those riwayat also I just quote them so that we have some knowledge if anyone does attack this credibility and doubts the credibility of the Azadari, so we know where we stand. So the hadith is from the Holy Prophet, which they are quoting. Now all this is false, and they are fabricated stuff and false. The hadith which they present, it says that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, "Arbaun min amrin jahiliyyah." There are four things which have come to Islam, and it is from the era of ignorance. What are they? It says al-fakhru bil-ihtisab, showing pride on the bygones. Wat-ta'an bil-ansab, that is finding faults with the ancestors of others. Wal-istisqa bin-nujum, seeking rain via astrology. And the fourth one is what is being discussed. And they say that one niyaha, nauha that we say, it's from niyaha. Niyaha means wailing, crying, azadari. They say the Prophet has said these four have come to Islam from the era of ignorance, and the fourth one is niyaha, which the Shias have. That is, they cry for the dead, for the deceased. Now, an-niyaha, the definition which they give, they say raf'u sawt bin nadm ala al-mayyit, that raising one's voice when crying on the deceased. And then they say that this crying for those who have passed away, it contradicts the patience which is mandatory. And then they say it is among the greater sins, among the gunahan kabira, the major sins. لِشِدَّةِ الْوَعِيدِ وَالْعُقُوبَةِ عَلَيْهَا. Why is it among the major sins? Because there is a severe chastisement and punishment mentioned for those who cry. Now, this is all what the Wahhabi lot say. Now, the second evidence is also a hadith which they state from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the reporter is Mughira bin Shu'bah. Now, who is this Mughira bin Shu'bah? After the shahadat of Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha, in the streets of Kufa, Muslims, they had congregated. They were proud and talking loud about their history and their ancestors in the battles, what they had performed, and this Mughira, he spoke. The moment Mughira spoke, Imam Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salam, he steps forward and says, Uskut. Uskut means quiet. Uskut, quiet. Anta alladhi darabta ummi Fatima. You are the one who hit my mother Fatima. Now this is the guy who is reporting the hadith from the Prophet regarding the azadari, and niyaha, which is not permitted. So, and then here Imam Mujtaba says that you are that very guy who hit my mother, Hazrat Zahra alayha salam, and this man is such a ruthless reporter of this hadith that the Prophet has said, he says, Innal mayyit la yu'adhib bil buka al hayy alayh. He says that the deceased, the dead, they are hurt by the living when they cry over them. And then says, وَمِثْلُ أَنَّ الْمَيِّتْ يُعَذِّبُ فِي قَبْرِهِ بِالنِّيَاحَةِ عَلَيْهِ. The second thing he says that the mayyit, the deceased, they are disturbed. They get upset, they get furious when people, they cry on them, on those who have passed away. Now this is that hadith which these two guys, they have reported, and which has become a strong, you could say, a platform to talk against the Shias. Now, based upon such reporters, they abstain from Aba Azadari. Crying is abandoned on one's own dead or the dead of the household of the Prophet, as it is among the issues which belong to the era of ignorance. That is what they say. Now, those opposing us and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are the Wahhabis. They say our claim is based on Quran and we prove this from the Quran. Will they accept and be quiet if we say what the Quran says? Mughira bin Shu'bah, this reporter, is not recognized as a good person. We take no word from him. Now they say that if I cry on, for example, my father, or I cry for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or the Prophet who have passed away, they say it is disturbing them. They don't like it. When this hadith contradicts Quran says, وَأَن لَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. That is, no one will take the burden of another. What I have done is mine, the good and the bad. What you have done is yours, the good and the bad. Now, if I cry on someone who has died, they say that he is taking the burden of the bad in me and it is being transferred to him, as a result of which he is getting disturbed. He's getting hurt. Doesn't make sense. Quran says, La taziru an la taziru waziratun wizra ukhra. Everyone takes his own burden and he will be rewarded and punishment for whatever he has done. So hadith that we have, and it is the criteria that you can't take every hadith. You have to see if this hadith contradicts Quran, you don't take it. You throw it on the wall. It's garbage. If it does not contradict Quran, then you accept it. So this hadith of these two riwayat, of these two ruthless reporters, we see that it doesn't have any standing. And also, first of all, the reporters are negative. And secondly, it contradicts Quran. So anything which contradicts Quran will not be taken. Now, when we see the emphasis Rasulullah has throughout his life, right from day one until the last moment of his life, no doubt the Prophet has seen the most difficulty in his life. All of these 23 years of services of his worship were bitter wars, battles, and then invitations, kuffar, munafiqeen, all these from the Middle East, from the Rome, everyone, they stood against the Prophet, they were against the Prophet, all the problems they caused, and everything and everything. Now, the instructions that Rasulullah has given to everyone, which is an ayah of Quran, and that is the word of Allah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. He says, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I don't want any reward for all these services that I had performed 63 years. I don't want anyone to pay anything to me for whatever I did. Says, if you do want to give anything, that what I want is love towards my Ahlul Bayt. So love towards that Ahlul Bayt, it's the reward or the payment of the risalat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So another he says, Ya qawm, la as'alukum alayhi malan. I don't want money. In ajriya illa ala Allah. My reward and ajr is upon Allah, tabarak wa ta'ala. He will pay me, He will give me. Ma as'alukum alayhi ajran in ajriya illa ala rabbil alameen. Lord of the worlds, He will pay me. So then he says, Ma sa'altukum min ajrin, the ajr that I want. What does he want? Says that you love the Ahlul Bayt. Quran, this is the ayah of Quran says, Ma sa'altukum min ajrin, the ajr that I want, wa huwa lakum. I don't get anything from it. Huwa lakum, that is for you. So when you love the Ahlul Bayt, you are the ones who will gain. You are the ones who will prosper. You are the ones who will have a better living here. You are the ones who will have a better transfer. You are the ones who will have all those elevated ranks and stations and positions, all because of that love. So nothing for me. My reward is with Allah. That what you get from this love is all yours. So this is a beautiful connection that we have, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam has made. Or when we look into the riwayat, for example, one of the ahadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, Salman, to Salman, he says that Salman yanfa'u hubbu ibnati Fatima fi sab'ati mawatin. Says this love that you have, Salman, towards my daughter Fatima, this is going to help you in 7 stations, very scary ones. Ahwaluhunna azima, all of them they are scary. Then he says, what are those stations? Says the simplest, and in another hadith says, فَهُوَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ مَعِي, whosoever loves this my daughter is in the heaven with me. وَمَنْ أَبْغَضَهَا فَهُوَ فِي النَّارِ, whosoever hates her is in the fire. And continues saying that Ya Salman hubbu Fatima yanfa'u fi mi'at min al-mawatin. In the first one said 7 stations. In the second one says 100 stations are there. Every one of them scarier than the other. And in all of those 100 scary stations, Fatima's love that you have, that will bail you out, help you out. What are they? Says, أَيْسَرُ تِلْكَ الْمَوَاطِنِ الْمَوْتِ. That is, out of those 100 difficult stations that we have, says the easiest among them is death. Says, in that death you will be eased. Wal-qabr, the grave. Wal-mizan, the scale of balance. Mahshar, that is the resurrection day. Was-sirat, that the bridge that we have to pass from. Wal-muhasaba, and the giving of accounts. Says these are the easy ones. Says in all of these difficult ones, and these are the simplest ones among them, you will be at rest, you will be at ease because of this love that you have towards Fatima, salamullahi alayha. And then he says, whosoever she is happy with, he is happy with. Allah is happy with him. And whosoever she is displeased, unhappy, and furious with them, Rasulullah is furious with them, and Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, his wrath, his azab, his chastisement is upon them. Ma sa'altukum min ajrin wa huwa lakum. Such a beautiful ayah. Rasulullah says, Ma sa'altukum min ajrin. The reward that I am asking, wa huwa lakum, that is for you. So I don't get anything. You love the Ahlul Bayt, you will be safe, you will be easy. قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. That what I want from you is love towards my Ahlul Bayt. So when you see these strong statements of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, all of them ayat of Quran, and those 2 silly ahadiths which say they have posted saying that niyaha, crying for the dead, is hurting them and transferring all your negative burden onto them, or the other one. So it doesn't make sense, doesn't add up when we have got such strong statements from Allah and Rasulullah in Quran and in the statements of the Holy Prophet. Now, when we talk about ulul qurba, the near ones of Rasulullah, who are the near ones? Says, وَمِنْ قِرَابَتِكَ هَؤُلَاءِ الَّذِينَ وَجَبَتْ عَلَيْنَا مَوَدَّتَهُمْ قَالَ. Now the reporter, he's one of these famous Sunni reporters. He comes and says that I asked the Prophet, you mentioned those who are near to you. Who are they? that Quran says, they will qurba. Qurba means the near ones. Who are these near ones, Ya Rasulullah? He says, Aliyun wa Fatima wa ibnahuma. It's Ali and it's Fatima and their sons. The two sons, these are the will qurba, that are the close ones to me. So love towards them. Yesterday in one of these sessions it was mentioned, the hadith from Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he says that despite all the emphasis and ta'keed Rasulullah had towards us and the Imamat, these enemies and these oppositions did not leave anything behind in not hurting us, in not harming us. Then he says that had Rasulullah given the instructions for them to kill us, to be bad to us, there wasn't anything for them to do any extra. Already they had done everything so bad unto us, there wasn't anything remaining. So they treated us in the worst way. So this love towards Rasulullah and his household, it is wajib, it is mandatory. I'll quote you another hadith here. This is also from Rasulullah. He says, now all of us over here, we have families, we have children, we have grandchildren, we have all these different children and kids around us. The instructions of Rasulullah says, Addibu awladakum ala thalath khisal. You train your children, you educate your children, you teach your children three things. One, hubbu nabiyyikum, love of your prophet. That your children, they become lovers of Rasulullah. They have that intense and immense mahabbat towards Rasulullah. Second, hubbu ahli bayt, love of his ahlul bayt. His ahlul bayt, who are they? Aliyun wa Fatima wal Hassan wal Hussein, and all the sons of Imam Hussein until Imam al Mahdi alayhi salam, and the entire package, the entire family. Says hubbu ahli baytih, that is, it is wajib upon you. You must teach them the love of the ahlul bayt of Rasulullah. And third thing which Rasulullah says, qira'atul Quran, teach your children recitation of Quran. So these are three essential elements mandatory upon every one of us, that we have to convey the message. Now this love of Rasulullah says, Hubbu ali Muhammadin yawman. One day you have that love for Rasulullah. One day you love Ali Rasul. Just one day. Says, Khayrun min ibadati sanatin. It's much better than the worship of one entire year. 365 days you occupy yourself in worship, and then you just love them for one day. Says that this one day's love is far weightier, heavier than that much of worship. وَمَنْ مَاتَ عَلَيْهِ دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. And with this love, someone dies, says دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ, he will enter the heaven. That is this muhabbat that we have towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ali Muhammad. And on one of these occasions, we see that Haris is one of the ashab of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Haris comes, it was a hot day. Now, those of you who've been to Iraq, you know in summer how hot it is, 55 Celsius. You can't come out of your homes. It's that hot. Says on a very, very hot day, Haris, he comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen's house, comes and knocks at the door, sweating, and it's hot. Imam says, Haris, what made you come here now? Imam was astonished to see him at this time. What emergency was that? What needed you to come here? What brought you here, Haris? He says, Hubban lak, Ya Ali. I couldn't resist not seeing you, Ya Ali. I wanted to come and somehow see you, Ya Ali. And he comes and says that love of yours, it dragged me all the way and brought me here. The Imam says that, Ya Harith man yamut yarani, that whosoever dies will see me. Min mu'minin aw munafiqin, may he be a mu'min, may he be a munafiq, he will definitely see. So this love that we have for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, it's amazing. It has amazing effects. And all of that turns back to us. Nothing to Rasulullah, nothing to Amirul Mu'mineen. Says everything fahuwa lakum. It is all for you. Now, when we look into the riwayat that we have, they are so beautiful that when you participate in a funeral, you say the family of the deceased that we are also with you in the sorrow, and we are with you in this trauma that you are going through. When they are happy, we also celebrate and we participate in their functions. So, because we are living in the same society, now we can do that to you and me who are living here. Why can't we do that to Rasulullah? Why can't we share our joy with them? Why can't we share our sorrow with them? When that what has been taught to us is that Ana wa Aliyun abawa hadhihi al-ummah. I and Ali are the fathers of this nation. So when you are happy, don't you share that joy with your father? You do. When he is sad, then do you not condole him? So that is something very simple. And whosoever goes away from aql and wisdom, this is all nonsense that they come up with. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he says that Shi'atuna khuliqu min fadilitinatina wa'ujinu binur al-wilayah. Our Shias, they've been created with the leftover clay with which we the Ma'sumin were created. وَعُجِنُوا بِنُورِ الْوِلَايَةِ. And this clay was mixed with the light and nur of wilayah. Now, when we, in these days, although everything is shut down, but there's something which drags us to this majalis. There's something which is bonding us to this tears and crying for the Ahlul Bayt. That what unites us, brings us, although everything is shut down, but somehow we got together. Says that is that Nurul Wilaya with which we were created, that clay of Wilaya which has united us all. When they are happy, we are also happy. When they are sad, we are also sad. And then Imam says, Shi'atuna khuliqu min fadili tinatina. They've created with the leftover clay with which Ma'asumin were created. يفرحون لفرحنا. In our joys they are happy. ويحزنون بحزننا. In our sorrows they are also sad. Elsewhere says Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, Rahmatullah ala shi'atina. Allah's mercy be upon them. Shi'atuna wahumul mu'minun. They are the believers. They are the faithful. And who are the faithful? Quran says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The first ayah of Surah Al-Mu'minun. Imam says, our Shias are the mu'mineen. Quran says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Prosperous are the believers. And who are they? Further, Imam says, Sharakuna fil musibati. They participated in our sorrows, in our griefs. Bitul al huzni wal hasra. And with all that grief and sorrow, they were with us. Now, anyone who cries for Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, so he has got closer and sought nearness with the Zawil Qurba, that is the near ones to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Now, this Aza of Hussein that we have is not mustahab, it is wajib. All these riwayat and ayat that were just quoted, it is mandatory that we have to observe. It is mandatory that we have to cry. Now, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he was in the pit and it were the last moments of his life, he says to the reporter, says when he's fallen in the pit, says, قُولُوا لِأَوْلِيَائِنَا. Say this to those who love us. يَهْتَمُّونَ فِي إِقَامَةِ مَصَائِبِنَا. That they must strive and endeavor in establishing our masa'ib. Those who can provide tabarruk, provide. Those who can hold majlis, hold it. Those who can help financially, help. Those who can provide services, provide cleaning, whatever you can do in observing this Aza of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He says in the last moments of his life, يَهْتَمُّونَ فِي إِقَامَةِ مَصَائِبِنَا. Or for example, Imam Baqir alayhi salam, in the last moments of his life, he says to Jabir, Jabir is the companion of Rasulullah who saw 5 Imams. Now this is the 5th and the last Imam that he is witnessing. Says, Ya Jabir, Balligh Shi'ati annis salam. Jabir, my salams to our Shias. Wa'alamhum, tell them, أنه لا قرابة بيننا وبين الله عز وجل. There is no nearness between us and them and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. وَلَا يُتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيْهِ إِلَّا بِالطَّاعَةِ اللَّهِ. And nothing will bring them closer to us and to Allah but obedience to Allah. And then says Jabir, whosoever is obedient to Allah and whosoever loved us, وَمَنْ عَسَى اللَّهَ لَنْ يَنْفَعَهُ. And whosoever is disobedient to Allah, that love also will be of no use. So love to Ahlul Bayt means obedience to Allah. So we cannot claim that we love Ahlul Bayt and are disobedient to Allah. That is a false claim. So it all goes in line. Obedience to Allah, obedience to Rasulullah, obedience to the Ahlul Bayt, and then love also will carry weight therein. So when we recite the ziyarat also, for example, there we say, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, فَقُلْ لَهُمْ إِنَّ أَبِي مَاتَ غَرِيبًا. Imam says, tell our Shias that my father, he was killed, alienated. وَإِنَّ أَبِي مَاتَ عَطْشَانًا فَاذْكُرُوهُ. And our father, he died of thirst. Remember his thirst. And when we say, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ, that Allah and his angels, they send salutations upon the Prophet. Allah fasallallahu ala al-baqeen ala al-Hussein. Imam says, know that Allah sends salutations upon those who cry for Hussein. So just like those salawats that Allah says, Allah and His angels, they send salutations upon the Prophet. Here Imam says, Allah sends His salutations upon those who cry for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. One of the most obedient servants that we have here in Karbala is Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam, someone who is staunch, someone who is extremely obedient to Abu Abdullah, and no one like him, the only one. And when we look into the Masaib and the performance of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, that is a proof in itself. Says, Ashhadu laka bit-taslimi wat-tasdiqi wal-wafa wal-nasiha. I bear witness that you submitted. I bear witness that you were loyal. And I bear witness that that nasiha and this advice that was seen was always there. Abul Fazl al-Abbas, born on the 4th of Shaban, the year 26 after Hijrah. Now the historians, they've mentioned an age for him, 34, 35 years old, early 30s. And he is the fifth of the 17 children of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. When Abul Fazl al-Abbas was born, he comes, the information is given to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he rushes to see the baby, to al-Baneen. And the first thing he does, takes the baby, rolls his sleeves and starts kissing the hands of this baby. Al-Baneen got worried, says that, Ali, is there anything wrong with the baby? Anything wrong with the hands? Why are you kissing the hands of this baby? She says, nothing wrong with the hands of this baby. He's got the strongest arms, the strongest hands. These are the hands that are going to be serving my son Hussein, and these are those hands that will be severed and cut by the Furat in service of Hussein. Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam, it means disapproval, as a thought or displeasure. Abbas means disapproval. He disapproves everything which is not haq, anything batil he never approves. Very smart, very strong, good looking, beautiful face, and there in Khasa'isul Abbasiyya mentions so many descriptions and qualities of Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam. And one of the ways there it mentions that if you have a hajat, if you have a wish, and you want to get that granted by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, offer a 2 rakat prayer, qurbatan ilallah. After Surah Al-Hamd, instead of the second surah, you say, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, 400 times. Then same in the second rakat. After Surah Al-Hamd, 400 times, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum. Your ruku and your sajdas will be as normal. And once you've completed these 2 raka'at, you will say, Assalamu alayk, Ya Abbas ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen, 100 times. That is that tawassul prayer that we have for Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. Now here, in the same book, In another book, Ayatollah al-Uzman Shahabuddin Marashi Najafi, he's among the Maraji who passed away in the late 90s, 1998. A very noble man. He writes in his book, says that one of the ulama of Najaf, he comes to Masjid Jamkaran, he offers the prayers there, and he had this doubt in his mind, says that people, they come to Imam, today the Imam is Imam al-Asr alayhi salam. So everyone should be seeking the Imam because he is the Imam of age. So is it not a disrespect that people, they go and seek Abul Fazl al-Abbas, for example, for what they want? Says this doubt I was debating in my mind. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it right? Is it wrong? Says all of a sudden I see a vision open before me, and then besides me, Imam al-Asr alayhi salam, he is sitting there. And he said to me, neither it is bad, nor is it disrespectful. In fact, if you approach Abul Fazl al-Abbas and then seek me, that is even better. And there he says that if you want to address, you say, Ya Abul Ghaus Adrikni, Ya Abul Ghaus Adrikni, that is, Ya Abul Fazl al-Abbas. Abul Ghaus, that, oh, helper. Now, Abul Ghaus, he is the father of the helpers. That is, help me. So that is what the Imam teaches. So there, in another vision, he says, I saw there are all these requests that have come to our 12th Imam and in his inbox, and he has to grant these wishes and that people have. And everything that is there, he has to give, and he gives. Says there are some requests and wishes that have come to Imam al-Asr alayhi salam. He picks them up, he touches them with his eyes, he kisses them, then he grants them. Now he says that I asked Imam, it's all your inbox, it's all your mu'mineen, they have wishes, they have hajat. What is the difference between this one and that one that you kiss and then you grant? He says, Imam says, that these are those wishes that have come to me via Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam. So that is that lofty station and rank that Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salatu wasalam has before the Aimma, has before Hazrat Zainab, before Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. The maqatil that we have, in the maqatil, there is a phrase that we find that when Abul Fazl al-Abbas, he wanted to set off to the battlefront, there he comes to seek the permission from Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam says that, Ya Abbas, إذا مضيت تفرق askari, that Abbas, if you leave this, my army, it is going to collapse. Now, when we see the maqatil, there we see that the last, after Abul Fazl al-Abbas, it's only two people. One is Ali Asghar, the infant. One is Abdullah bin Hassan, the 10-year-old son of Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam. So everyone else has died. It's only these two children who are remaining. And it is one Abbas who is there and one Abu Abdullah Hussein. And here he says that Abbas, if you go, my army will collapse. So there is no army remaining. It is only one Abbas who is the entire army, who is recognized by Abu Abdullah and Hussein as the entire army. Imam says that now that you are leaving, Abbas, go and get some water for the children. He comes and takes the smallest vessel. One of the titles given to Abul Fazl is Abul Qirba. Qirba means a small vessel. He takes the smallest vessel with him to go and fetch water for the children here of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam, and with all fury, with all might, he fights and he comes to the Furat. Here, Maqatil, they say that 7 times it took for him to get into the river. He filled the river. Now, someone who is dehydrated himself, hasn't had water for such a long time, is thirsty, has been fighting all day, and is thirsty. He could have drunk water there if he wanted to. He picks up some water and then throws it in the river because my brother Hussein, he is thirsty. He fills the vessel and he is returning to the camps. And here no one could come near Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam. That Mal'oon, he shot an arrow onto his right arm and his right arm, it got cut. Here Abul Fazl al-Abbas holds the vessel with his left hand. The Mal'oon, he shoots an arrow on his left arm. The left arm also falls to the ground. He holds the vessel with his teeth. And then the other Mal'oon, Harmala, La'natullahi alayh, he shoots an arrow onto the eye of Abu al-Fazl al-Abbas with no hands to wipe his blood in his eyes. And then all the blood, it fell and filled his eyes. Abul Fazl al-Abbas could see nothing in front. Another arrow was shot onto the vessel, and all the water it drained. Here Abul Fazl al-Abbas, his heart broke. Now when he falls from that horse, this Abul Fazl al-Abbas has no arms, no hands to rest on, falls to the ground. Another Mal'oon comes and hits another iron rod onto his head, which was smashed. And this pure body of Abul Fazl Abbas was so much damaged and cut into pieces that it wasn't possible for them to transfer the body and bring it by the other bodies that were in that camp. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein comes to rescue him. Hears a cry that, Ya Akhak, Adrik Akhak, brother, help your brother. Comes here by Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam, puts his head in his laps, cleans his eyes, removes the arrow from his eye, and then Abu Fazl Abbas also gives away his life in the laps of his master Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. That what we see amazing here from Abu Abdullah is that now how does he announce this shahadat of Abu Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam? Comes, rushes to the camp and removes the column of the tent that was the headquarters of Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam. The tent, it falls to the ground, and there the Ahlul Bayt, they found out that Abul Fazl al-Abbas, he is no more. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إلهي بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها. Ya Allah, 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 Ya Allah. Ilahi by Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. Our children to be enlisted among the best of Muslims, Ya Allah. Ilahi by Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. Ilahi bi Abil Ghawth. Hasten in the return of our Imam, our Master, and count us all among the best of his servants and those who seek shahadat in his service. Ilahi bi Abil Ghaus, all those who are ill and ailing, grant them shifa. Ilahi bi Abil Ghaus, this very moment, all those who have departed, Allah forgive them and grant them the best of ranks and stations in the vicinity of Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam. إلهي بأبي الغوث أدركني بأبي الغوث أدركني بأبي الغوث أدركني. ماتم يا حسين.
حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين علمدار جری ہے 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 علمدار جری میں تیری شان کے قربان علمدار جری ہے میں تیری شان کے قربان علمدار جری ہے علمدار جری ہے علمدار جری ہے علمدار جری علمدار جری ہے علمدار جری کبھی مولا کبھی آقا کبھی سردار کا کبھی مولا کبھی آقا کبھی سردار کا آج ایک بار ذرا بھائی کو بھائی کہہ دے آج ایک بار ذرا، بھائی کو بھائی کہہ دے اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، کبھی مولا کبھی آقا کبھی سردار کہا، کبھی مولا کبھی آقا کبھی سردار کہا، آج ایک بار ذرا بھائی کو بھائی کہہ دے آج ایک بار ذرا، بھائی کو بھائی کہہ دے اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار، اے علمدار جری، آنکھ میں تیر ہے کیسے ہو زیارت آقا، آنکھ میں تیر ہے کیسے ہو زیارت آقا، ہاتھ باقی نہیں آقا کی سلامی کے لیے، ہاتھ کی نہیں آقا کی سلامی کے لیے، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، مشک پانی سے بری ہونٹ تیرے تیر نہ ہوئے، مشک پانی سے بری ہونٹ تیرے تر نہ ہوئے، ہے وفا کیا کوئی عباس جری سے سیکھے، ہے وفا عباس جری سے سیکھے، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، روکے کہتی تھی یہ زینب کے نہ چھنتی چادر، روکے کہتی تھی یہ زینب کے نہ چھنتی چادر، تو جو ہوتا تو نہ بندھتے کبھی رسی سے گلے، تو جو ہوتا تو نہ بندھتے کبھی رسی میں گلے، اے علمدار جری، 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 اب مجھے پیاس نہیں شام غریباں ہے یہ، اب مجھے پیاس نہیں شام غریباں ہے یہ، مشغلہ ہو میرے جلتے ہوئے دامن کے لیے، مشغلہ ہو یہ جلتے ہوئے دامن کے لیے، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری، جسے تھی آس جڑی لا نہ سکا وہ پانی، جسے تھی آس جڑی لا نہ سکا وہ پانی، پھر سکینہ نہ کسی سے بھی پانی مانگے، پھر سکینہ نہ کسی سے کبھی پانی مانگے، اے علمدار جری، اے علمدار جری یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین.
رو رہی ہے سوچ کر، رو رہی ہے سوچ کر، البنی یہ آج بھی اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی. رشک کرتی تھی میں اکسے حیدر کرار پر، پاؤں خط دیتے تھے اس کے بیٹھ کر راہوار پر. ہائے میرے شیر کی، ہائے میرے شیر کی یہ کیسی حالت ہو گئی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی. باپ کے بدلے مسلمانوں نے بیٹے سے لیے، سر جدا ہے تن جدا بازو جدا ہے شیر کے. آپ کی تصویر ٹکڑے، آپ کی تصویر ٹکڑے ہو گئی ہے یالی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی. کب سماتا تھا میری چادر میں تو اے میرے لال، کر دیا ہے ظالموں نے یہ تیرے لاشے کا حال. ہے میرے سر کی ردا بھی، ہے میرے سر کی ردا بھی تیری تربت سے بڑی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی. کہہ کے یا عباس کرتا ہے وہ اشکوں سے وضو، ڈرتی ہوں جاری نہ ہو پھر اس کی آنکھوں سے لہو. سامنے عابد کے یوں، سامنے عابد کے یوں کہتی نہیں ہوں میں کبھی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی، اصغر بے شیر جیسی قبر ہے عباس کی. یا عباس.
ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولمن وجب له حق علينا ولمن وصانا بالدعاء ولجميع أمة محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. For all المؤمنين المؤمنات الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Thank you. التماس دعاء.